Hey you, it's Jess here and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a 2024 setup of my reading journal, and I know it is it is still September when you're seeing this, I know, but I read a lot this year already and I really wanted to do the reading journal thing. I've tried it twice before and it's never panned out, but with the release of Scribble Prints Co's reading journal stickers, I just felt more inspired to finally try out different styles and just play around with the journal as I've been wanting to do for a long time. And yeah, it's September, but I read a lot of books this year that I really wanted to do little spreads of and play around with, and I thought we could do this. I set it all up, to be a proper 2024 planner journal, because it would give me practice at least for 2025, and I will be doing 2025 in the same journal because it'll be big enough. But yeah, so this can give you some ideas for 2025 and just see how I mess around and do this. I will say right now, this is not about perfection. This is about being creative and having fun. So if lots of errors and wobbly lines annoy you, you might not want to watch. I'm a professional artist, but I struggle with straight lines. And I don't know, sometimes I feel kind of anxious while I do this, trying to get it right, which I've been trying to get out of my head while doing this. So there are errors and we move on because it still looks cute. It doesn't actually matter. We're just doing this for our own enjoyment. So I will just say that now. There are going to be a lot of wobbly lines and errors, and it's okay. It still looks really cute, and I don't care. And you shouldn't either if it's your own journal. It's always going to look great because you made it with your intention. So I should also say now, yes, this video is 1 hour long. I actually had almost 3 hours of footage that I've cut down and made fast in parts. But I try to do a lot of this also at normal speed so we can kind of just journal together. So definitely strap in, maybe get some stuff done, have a snack, a drink, anything to chill out. Or you can watch this in bits and pieces over time. But we got an hour to spend here. I'll try to talk for some of it because I know it's nice to have someone talking and not just music. So, but we will see. There might be parts where I put music in. It depends. I am pretty chatty. As you've already seen, I already have gone past the opening where we put this journal belongs to, and I just put there's a cute sticker from Scribble Prints Co that I colored in, and I just printed off these magazine letters that I found on Google. It was just a stock image that I printed off and cut to make my own letters. And then the vinyl is from Kirakira Karakasa something. Her name is hard to remember, but it will be down in the description box. All the links to the shops that I can link you will be down in the description box, and I will try and put them in order. So Kirakira Karakasa, something like that, is in there, was where the little artist Kirby comes from. And I just thought that'd be really cute for the front because that's kind of what we're doing here, being little artists. So then the first thing we're going to do here is the 2024 reading journal cover page. And I brought out these are Korean stickers that I got from stickergiftstore.com. And the artist, I think, is called Soup Story, which is incredibly hard to Google because you look up Soup Story stickers and you get stickers of soup. But they do have a Tumblr, I think, this artist, but they're a Korean artist, and they have other stickers that I'm kind of sad I can't find where to buy them because I want more because they're so cute. All of her sheets kind of come like this with the person and some extra things. But I use a few sheets of those throughout the journal spread setup. But we're using this cute little witch first to do the opening because I kind of wanted to do the purple pink look. And I just colored in the Scribble Prints Co title sticker with some pencils. I have a mix of Prismacolor pencils, which I totally forgot I bought in 2019 when I went to San Francisco for a PlannerCon. I went to a Blix art store and bought these Prismacolor pencils. So I fished those out of my collection, and I also have a bunch of, as you can see here, Tombow Dual Brush markers. I bought a collection, which you would have seen in my first journaling haul, of just different colors I thought I would need. And a lot of this setup will be me playing with the Tombows. I've been watching a lot of reading journal videos and a lot of different methods to use these kind of markers, especially to make these ginghams and grids. And so I decided just to make this whole page a fun purple gingham, but there we go. We have our first proper wobbly line. If that frustrates you, it's not going to be the last one, so I apologize. But we're just having fun here. And I think that's mostly the front page done. I'm going to try and keep them pretty simple, but nice, fun and cute looking. I'm also not sticking with any style for this setup or throughout the journal. I want to be able to do different things throughout it. I make it also, because it's not just a reading journal, it's going to also have media in it, so movies and TV. You've already seen I've done a spread for Rings of Power and little episode reviews for that, which looks very different to this cover page. I've also got some video gaming stuff in here, and I will probably put in, what was I thinking? There's something I was thinking of putting in, I can't remember now, but it'll come to me later. We're also going to be pulling in some Marigona Suli stickers here with a bunch of Scribble Prints Co things. We're first going to do a yearly goals page, and then next to it we're going to do our book tracker with my Goodreads challenge, which is 40 books. And as of now, the 26th of September, I've read 33 books. I'm probably going to finish my 34th today after I do this voiceover. So I think that's pretty good. But again, we're going to be playing with some Tombow brushes here, some markers. Sorry, it's first thing in the morning. I don't know what to call everything. So I had been watching this one person. Oh my god, I can't remember all the people I watched for reading journal stuff, but they had done these really cool squiggles in, and they did them around the boxes that they drew. But because I was using sticker boxes from Scribble Prints Co, I thought this would be a perfect time to do this kind of squiggly line trend where you put it all over the page, because I could just layer the sticker boxes over the top and it would give me that seamless look. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do it with pink and purple, and I think it turned out really pretty. So while we're doing this, I guess I could also talk about me as a reader if you're interested in that. But the main books that I really read is fantasy and sci-fi. The first fantasy I ever read was actually my mom and I reading Narnia together when I was a little kid. And I was just always into fantasy. I was also really into the Middle Ages and things like that. Always into the princesses and knights and things. And actually also, so that was my memory of reading with my mom. But when as a little kid reading with my dad, I remember we used to lie in his bed together and read, and he would read me Black Beauty. And it had a beautiful hardcover edition that I remember, that had red ribbons as the bookmark. Anyway, so those are some of my first books, Narnia and Black Beauty. But also, as a kid, I loved picture books like Harry McClary, and I think Angelina Ballerina were my favorites because I did ballet as a kid. But then I remember the first time I found and read my own fantasy, and I was walking along the lines of my primary school library, looking at their collection, and the cover, I think it was facing forward a little bit, and the cover totally pulled me in. But it was Alana, the First Adventure by Tamara Pierce. So it was the Total Alana books. And I just saw that and I'm like, and I read that she was, a girl who's pretending to be a boy to become a knight because girls aren't allowed to be them. And I was like, well, I'm into this. And I was just like, yeah, it totally changed everything for me. I believe I was in year 4, I think. No, maybe even year 3. I think it might have been the end of year 3, start of year 4, because I remember specifically in year 4, I started reading the second quadrilogy, which was the books about Dane, the Wild Magic books. And I was reading those in year 4. I know specifically because I was reading the first book and I just remember this one thing where she was kind of my friend, but kind of my enemy, that kind of friendship as young girls. I was reading the first book and she was like, oh, what are you reading? And I was like, oh, this, I said the book. And then the next day she came and she came in and she was reading the second book in the series just as I was finishing the first book. And I was like, well, don't you want to read the first book? And she's like, no, I'm fine with reading the second book. And then I had to wait for her to finish the second book before I could read it because I had just finished the first book. Anyway, those little injustices in your life that you just remember for some reason. And that was in year 4. But yeah, I read all of the Total books. My favorites in the end, though, were The Protector of the Small, the third one, with Kelladry. I felt a lot of kinship with Kelladry. She's tall, she's awkward, she's deathly afraid of heights. I'm like, it's me. And she loved jousting, which I love jousting too. So those are my first I picked these fantasy. I found these. And yeah, I loved it. And then my librarian at the school recommended me this book called Obernewton, which is more of a sci-fi dystopian series, which is Australian. And those are the sort of first sci-fi that I really read as well. And I really enjoyed that too. But yeah, so that was sort of the beginning of my reading journey. And then, of course, when I was 13, the Lord of the Rings movies came out. And I was obsessed. I said this in a recent Plan with Me that I saw Fellowship of the Ring 12 times at the cinema when it came out. Anytime I was near a cinema, I was like, let's go see Fellowship. And then I got really into reading The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And as an adult, I've now read The Silmarillion. I just fell in love with Lord of the Rings and it became a big thing for me. I even wrote some fan fiction, you guys. Fan fiction in which I looked up a dictionary for Quenya, the elf language, one of the elf languages, and I used it in my fan fiction. Anyway, and yes, it was a self-insert of me as an elf and I was falling in love with Legolas. Leave me alone. I was 13, 14, okay? Anyway. So that was and ever since then, I've still just loved reading fantasy. So you can see here now, I'm just getting those stickers together in the book tracker. And yeah, I just love the way it came out. They're still simple spreads, but I feel like they're really, with the addition of the marker lines, it makes it really graphic and pop. And we're going to be coloring in all of the books in the purple and the pink. I can't remember which purple this is of the Tombows, but the pink is Dusty Pink. But I found that I wanted to do is a third color in that book tracker, and my green, which I only have mint, doesn't match the Marigona Suli stickers. So you'll see later when we do a flip through at the very end, where I filled some of these pages in for you, that I left a lot of the numbers blank because I'm waiting to get more Tombows in. I ordered the color asparagus, and I hope that will match better. But now we are going to do this everyday reading tracker, which I know starting this in September, but I also have a memory keeping planner and also a daily planner. And in my daily planner, I always marked if I read or not. So I just went back from January and went all the way through September to be able to fill in my everyday reading tracker. And it was interesting to actually see it in this format because I actually realized what my reading habits were. And I didn't read a lot in the beginning of the year because I tend to read an audiobook while I do my work. And in the beginning of the year, I was watching a lot of Sims streams, gaming streams, instead of reading. So I have not that many reading days at the beginning of the year. But starting July, I got really into reading again. And I think about maybe March or April is where I started actually reading 2 books at once. I started reading a Kindle book in bed before I went to sleep. And I started doing this because I really needed to change up my bed routine. I was doom scrolling all night long and it wasn't good for my health. So I started leaving my phone in the living room and then just having my Kindle to read before sleeping. And that has changed a lot of my reading habits. So yeah, now I'm able to read a digital and also an audiobook at the same time. But yeah, so for these pages, this was kind of a failed experiment. I had seen someone do this and I thought it looked so good. It's where they colored in the block with the of color with the marker, and then they went over with the thin part to like make a grid pattern. And because as you layer the marker over, it gets darker. So you have this really cool like grid effect. And you can kind of see it here, but I don't know what I did wrong versus that person I watched, because their coloring in of the marker looked seamless, which I'm wondering now, because I know that coloring in with these water-based markers is never like blended and seamless, unlike alcohol markers. So I don't know, on their video it looked like a pure block of color and then the grid really showed up on top, whereas mine, you can barely see the grid because of the marker lines. If you know a better like method of doing that, or please let me know. I'd love to know, to hopefully get better at it. I still think it looks cute. I still like the blocks of color on the side. But yeah, it didn't have quite the same effect that I was going for. So what was I talking about with reading now? Gosh. I've completely forgotten where I was. Okay, I was smart and I went back and looked. So we'll talk about the everyday tracker. But yeah, so that was interesting to actually see it laid out, which is why I asked Scribble Prints Co to make this layout for the stickers, because it is a very involved layout to make on your own, like doing all those lines. And the sticker makes it just so easy, but it's such an interesting way to look at your reading habits, or maybe the amount of words you read, things like that. We went through it with the whole, but yeah, so it was very interesting to see that all put together. So here I was thinking I was going to put a read sticker, and I know that I have some from Scribble Prints Co coming in the mail, because she released those later. So I kind of penciled in where I might put the read sticker, but then I will change my mind and put the totals in, because I thought actually she has this total box and this total label, so you can actually put in how many days of the year that you read. So, or how many pages, whatever you're tracking. So I decided to put that in because actually I would like to be able to see the number of how many days I read. I'm coloring in with this set of my Tombows, and these are the colors that I'm going to use for the coloring in of the boxes, which you will see at the end. I do color them in prior to the flip through at the end. So yeah, here's where I decide, actually I'm going to put this sticker right here, and it fit perfectly. So yeah, that's where I'm going to put my totals of how many days I read in the month. But yeah, so what was so I was talking about that, but also about my reading thing. So obviously I was really into fantasy, especially as a child, and I read a lot of young adult fantasy as a child. I guess I was definitely reading ahead of my time, but I feel like a lot of us do anyway. I feel like most kids will read some young adult as a kid. I don't know. But no, then when I got into high school, oh, that was fun. So my high school English teacher, my year 9 English teacher, he actually wrote fantasy books professionally, and I used to have them, and I had him sign one of them, but they're very obscure Australian fantasy novels. But he used to be a fantasy author, and so we actually did completely different reading in high school compared to my other classes. So I think that was the year everyone read Lord of the Flies, but our class did not. I can't remember the name of the book, but I'm sure if you know the description, you might have read it too. But it was a book about there being a nuclear fallout in the world, like the world is destroyed by nuclear weaponry. But this one girl lives in this valley, and the valley protects her from the nuclear destruction. And then one day, a random man ventures into the valley, and so she has to deal with this random man coming into the valley. If you know the book, let me know. I could probably just Google the description, but that's what we read instead of Lord of the Flies, this nuclear sci-fi book. And then in the second semester, when everyone was reading, I can't remember what they were reading, maybe it was a Shakespeare, we were doing a full class sci-fi role play. So our whole class was a spaceship, and we all had our roles on the spaceship. We had to do a little journal. I was in security, and one of the students, we were going on a planet to do some mining, and one of the students that we find and pick up is actually an alien, and we put them in our prison. So I actually dealt with the alien like the whole semester. But yeah, that's what I did in year 9 English. Instead of reading the classics, we did a whole bunch of sci-fi stuff and roleplay. And I thought that was so fun and so cool. And he was like the best English teacher. And then stuff happened for me, the typical undiagnosed ADHD student. It all went wrong for me, okay? I think for a long time I considered it a mental break, like a mental breakdown, but I think it was actually intense ADHD burnout. Anyway, it all went wrong for me, and I ended up changing schools, and I ended up kind of dropping out. And then after a year of doing nothing, I went back to school to finish, but I didn't 100% finish. So I never actually did year 11 or year 12. No, I didn't do year 10 or year 12 English. So my reading went by the wayside. I was all about music at the time and art. So actually for most of my teen years, I didn't do any reading. I was one of those kids. I was, partying every weekend. But then I was kind of adrift for my early years until when I turned 21, I did a tertiary admission test and got into university. And I started off doing an art degree, which I guess is why I'm a professional artist now. But, just a little skip in the story here, just to say that, I colored in the alphabet reading challenge in a different lot of colors, and I will use those colors to mark in the letters from when I read a book. And I was like, okay, do I have any stickers that will go with this just to add it some decoration? And I have all of these deco stickers from Scribble Prints Co, and these spring ones actually matched perfectly. So I'm just going to do a little decoration of those to add to the alphabet reading challenge. I decided I didn't need to put the, what books included in there. I actually know what most of the books were, but I'm going to do a book log in a couple of pages so I can write literally every book that I read this year to keep track of those, because obviously so far we don't have anything too descriptive in terms of the books that I'm actually reading, but we will later. But continue on with the story, I started my art degree and I got really into the art history and theory, and I still loved all of my studios. I was doing paint. In the first year of my degree, we actually did, in the first semester, we had every Monday we would do an all-day studio, and we would go to every single different major that they had. So we did glass one time, and glass pouring is so fun, you guys. I love pouring glass. Even though you have this burning hot glass in a furnace, it's so fun. We did painting, we did sculpture, we did printmaking, we did drawing, we did everything. But the main focus of that degree was to become an exhibiting traditional artist, and it wasn't quite my interest. And I really fell in love with the history and theory. So that's when I actually transferred at the end, I transferred with my credits to a different university in my city. Where I come from, there were 3 universities. And most people go to a university in their own city in Australia. But anyway, so I transferred and I got into a degree, just a Bachelor of Arts, and I decided I was going to major in history and minor in English. And I actually ended up having enough credits to double major in history and English, and I had a minor in art history because I didn't have a major in art history. Anyway, so yeah, I ended up doing all the English stuff, and I was so worried about doing this history and English degree because it interested me so much. But the last time I did proper English and history was year 9. Like, I was 15 the last time, and now I was like 22, 23. So I was scared, you guys, but I put all of my effort in, and I loved it, and I loved all the books. That was my one thing about doing an English degree, is so many people would be like, oh, I never read any of the novels, I just read Spark Notes for the exam. And I'm like, but the fun is you get to read books. I mean, and like, my intro to English class, one of the first books we read was Dickens' Great Expectations, and it's still one of my all-time favorite books, to be honest. I loved it. Pip is such poor little Pip, and I just love how, like, when we were talking about the symbolism, like, it's the great expectations that he would become this great man, but you think about his name is Pip, and he's like a little seed, and he never becomes more than his little seed. It's so sad. And one of my all-time favorite quotes is from that book. I'm going to just go and tell you about this book. I'm going to go and get this quote for you because it's my favorite. Okay, here we go. This is the first book quote I've ever saved in my life. From Great Expectations. Heaven knows we need never be ashamed of our tears, for they are rain upon the blinding dust of earth overlying our hard hearts. I was better after I had cried than before, more sorry, more aware of my own ingratitude, more gentle. As someone who has been a crybaby their whole life, I kind of love this, like the idea of never having to be ashamed of our tears. And I loved Pip. I love this book. I know it's like a crazy long classic. I know like not a lot of people are huge fans of Dickens these days, but you also have to think about how a lot of his books were serialized, so you should read. I was thinking of actually finally reading Bleak House, but reading it a couple of chapters every month, like the way it was actually released in real time. I thought that could be fun, but I was just saying, like, yeah, I fell in love with reading again, especially classics at that time because of my English course. We also read, I think the Virginia Woolf book I read was To the Lighthouse, and then I think in another course we read The Waves, maybe. I also fell in love with Virginia Woolf, but also another one of my favorite all-time books that I read in my courses, and this was for 20th Century Greats, I think, was A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. I highlighted so many things in that book. Just, if you've read the book, The Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, it's the whole scene where he's at the beach. It's just so beautifully written. I was so deep into it. But other courses that I did a bunch of European grades. So we read a lot of translated books from different European countries. And I think one of my favorites from there was probably The Red and the Black from France. It's like an 800-page book, and I didn't think I could do it, but I wrote a whole essay on it, and I don't know how it happened. And then I actually did, one of my favorite essays was, we were doing some romantic poetry, and the romantic poets are some of my favorite: Percy Bysshe Shelley, Wordsworth, Lord Byron. I love it so much. But I did a poem on, it was about the beautiful versus the the Sublime, and how I think it's the Sublime, and how Sublime is more like terrifying, whereas the Beautiful is more soft. And it was comparing the kind of the beautiful poem of Wordsworth about in the clouds rolling across the sky versus Percy Bysshe Shelley's Mont Blanc poem, which is more about the sublime. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed my English classes. I also did a Gothic course, which was fun. And, we read Frankenstein and Edgar Allan Poe and a few Australian Gothic, which are so interesting to me. I loved it so much. Although the frustrating thing about my Gothic course is every seminar we had, people wanted to bring up Harry Potter. And I was like, guys, what is Gothic about Harry Potter? Anyway, that was the downside of doing an English course with millennials. They couldn't stop talking about Harry Potter, even though we were talking about Australian Gothic. We also read As I Lay Dying as well. Anyway, any hoozles. So I read a lot more through my English courses. Oh, let's do a quick thing before we continue on about my reading journey. But this is probably my weakest spread. I think I really liked the way the book log came out, and I tested the markers to see if they would layer well with the pink and the sort of periwinkle. I think it was called Purple Mist, that other Tombow. And I'm literally just going to write a list of the title, the author, and how many stars I gave it. So it's a quick book log. I was gonna do a book log and then a 5-star reads next to it, but I smartly counted the number of lines I had on the book log for one page, and it was not enough. It was not enough for even the books that I finished so far this year. So I decided to get rid of the 5-star reads. I might do it at the end of the year as sort of like an end of the year thing. But yeah, so I just made it a full book log, and it should have enough lines now for all the books I'll read this year. And here I'm trying to do a double spread of my reads from 2023. So in 2023, I read 33 books, and I really wanted to give them space in this journal because I actually had done a 2023, I started a 2023 reading journal back then, and I was kind of basing off the plant-based bride look. So I had the square journal from Archer and Olive, and I was doing all of the coffee papers and things, but it just wasn't moving me. I think I just want to be able to be I want to do spreads like that, but I also just want to have other styles and have fun and mix it up. So, and I think this A5 size journal is a bit better size for me personally, and how much stuff I'm going to put into it. So I still wanted to do a spread of my 2023 books, and I also realized I forgot to print off one of the books, which is why there's a blank space. But I also read the Wizard's Hand Guide to Time Travel, to Medieval England, 2023 was obviously the year of Brandon Sanderson, and I'm a huge Brando fan, at least of his books. And I did read all of the Secret Projects, so that was one of those that I just didn't have a book cover for some reason. I also didn't have a sticker with 2023 on it, so I'm going to very attempt to do a 3 here. It's very chunky and doesn't quite match, but it's good enough for now. And maybe Andrea will see this and print me up a 2023 for me, but it doesn't matter. I should say the upside of these Scribble Prints Co stickers is that they are removable matte, so you can move them around a lot, and you'll see that I've done that a lot, especially with the alphabet challenge, to be able to fit all of them in. I'm so thankful for removable matte sticker paper. I should say also that everything that I've printed off myself, like my book covers, I also print them all on removable matte sticker paper, which I buy from online labels. It makes it so easy because I don't currently have any, I have a glue stick, but I don't currently have a glue tape, which I prefer, but it's such a pain, and just printing directly onto sticker paper just made it so much easier. And I bought 100 pages of it for 25 euros. And I just print using my little, I have an Epson printer. I know it's pretty standard, and I think it does pretty well. So That's really how I'm doing a lot of these things. And for this spread, I was using my my sky blue Tombow, and I pulled in these really cute Tea Time, Alice in Wonderland flower Korean stickers that again I got from Sticker Gift Store. But there's something about this spread that's just, I don't know, it's just not great. Maybe the blue is too light. I will add a bit more to the blue. I'm going to add a grid around the edge just to like fill it in a bit more. But I don't know if I should try and add something. Maybe I should put my star ratings underneath each book. That might fill it up a bit better. But this, for me, is my weakest spread in the journal so far. I could also like put blue, like some of the blue underneath the books and then put the stars over the top so there's a bit more color. This is what I'm considering, but so far I've kind of like left it as it is. I still have to print off my extra book cover. But yeah, so those are the books I read in 2023. We won't get into those now because it was a lot of books, but I did start reading the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey, which I finished this year. And I read a whole set of graphic novels, which I had loved as a teenager. I really love the artist Sophie Campbell. And I never got to read the very last one, number 7, so I finally bought the whole collection because when I moved from Australia to Finland, I had to get rid of all of my books, including my Wet Moon books, but that's okay because the Wet Moon copies that I have actually have Sophie Campbell's dead name on them. She is a trans woman. And she started doing these books before she transitioned, so I'm happy to have all copies that have her actual name on them now, rather than her dead name. So I'm happy about that, but yeah, I was finally able to read the very last one. So I finished that whole series there. And I also read all of N.K. Jemisin's The Broken Earth trilogy. Oh, loved it. Mwah, chef's kiss. So good. Although I will say it begins with a child death. And I think the second book has another child's death in it, so if that's a trigger for you, but I will say its commentary about motherhood is so good, even though I'm not a mother. But anyway, those are some things that I read in 2023. But then continuing on with my degree, so then I got into history post-grad. I did history, in Australia, you do a 3-year degree, and then if your marks are good enough and you apply, you can do a 4th-year honours thesis year. And I worked my butt off in my final year of my courses to get good enough grades to get into honours history. So I decided to go straight into history. And because I got first class honours, so I got, did I get like 93 out of 100 or something like that? I was very, very proud and shocked because, I was never a good school girly. But anyway, I barely finished high school. But that just shows that you can do things. If you put your mind to it, you can. It doesn't matter what you think. You are smart. It's there. You just have to apply yourself and have passion. So anyway, because I got first class honors with my thesis, I was able to go straight into PhD. I didn't have to do a master's degree in Australia. It's just a thing that they do. We'll talk about this spread in a second here. We are doing series trackers now. And I have 2 more pages to do, but I haven't done them yet. So the first one we have here is Marcel Proust in Search for Lost Time. This is one of the books that I read in my European literature course. So this is one of the ones that we did as well, where we read Swan's Way. And I really, really loved it. It was kind of mind-blowing, honestly. Like the first section of it, you actually get lost in time in the narration, and then it comes back to the where it began. There's like a narrative. Can't remember what it's called. Usually I know, basically there's a setup and then he remembers, and you go through the memory of what it remembers, but then it goes back to where the narrator actually is at the end, and I was like mind blown. I was like, wait, that's what happened at the beginning of the book. I remember now. Anyway, I got lost in his memory. Anyway, I really want to, as a life goal, read in all of In Search of Lost Time. It just feels like one of those intelligent, Like, I am an intelligent person. I've read all of Proust in Search of Lost Time. And I'm using that translation. The book name and the book names and the series names do have different translations, but I'm using the specific ones that I have here. But anyway, I finished Swan's Way, and I have Within a Budding Grove on my Audible, so eventually I want to read this whole series. So I'm just doing a page for the series tracker of these books. Anyway, then we're going to do a normal series tracker next to it with all the standard stuff. But then I'm not in this video going to set up. I want to do a specific page for the Cosmere from Brandon Sanderson, and also a specific page for A Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, because there's just so many books in those, so I thought I would do separate trackers, but I didn't do that for this video. Anyway, back to my degree. I started a PhD in history. So yeah, basically if you have first class honors in your thesis, they determine that it's proven that you can do a master's thesis. So I got into PhD and I did my history PhD. Basically, I was reading so many history books and articles that I just didn't read at all for pleasure, no fiction. I could only just read my PhD books. So, I spent 4 years not reading then. Well, 5 years, including my honors thesis, because I didn't read for pleasure then either. So, yeah, I kind of stopped for a long time, and then I completed and handed in my thesis in 2020. Yes, it was June 2020, so it was the time, which I guess at least in lockdown I was working on my PhD thesis, finishing it. And then in August I found out that it passed with no revisions needed, so it was done. And then I was free. And then it still took a little bit, but I finally started getting back into reading. And what really got me back into reading was finding audiobooks. My partner and I, we share an Audible account. We share an Audible account and we share a Kindle account, an Amazon account. So we just share the same books. It's easier that way, because my partner also reads a lot. Anyway, so yeah, I found Audible and I started finally reading. And I think actually the first thing I really started reading again was Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, I started the Mistborn trilogy because I'd seen my friend Samantha plans and reads. If you're in the planning community, you probably know about Samantha. But anyway, she recommended the book in a video. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try it out. And then Locke told me that they had been reading the Stormlight Archive, Brandon Sanderson's other big series. So I tried out Mistborn, loved it. And the audiobook, obsessed. And then I got into Stormlight, and then Mistborn Era 2, it all came down from there. And then I was just reading everything. I got everything on audiobook. I finally I got through Lord of the Rings again properly, and Silmarillion, and just then branching out all different books and lots of recommendations from my partner, because my partner was also studying at the same time as me, but they were doing computer science, so they had a bit more brain power and time to be able to read fiction, whereas I was all the history books, they're kind of academic history writing is still you have to have all the evidence and footnotes and arguments, but you're still kind of story writing, you're writing about people in a story way. So I still kind of got my fill with that. But anyway, so here with the series, but yeah, so since I finished my PhD and went full-time in art business, and I was able to read audiobooks, especially while I'm drawing. It's perfect. I've read so many more books, but so that is where I've got from A to B in my reading journey. I'm sorry I just did all of this at you, but that's a sort of introduction to me and my proper reading journey. But the majority of it has been about science fiction and fantasy, and I feel like my history stuff added to the fantasy because I was doing medieval and early modern history from Britain, so it kind of added into that. With this series tracker, I just did a simple border And again, more of these soup story stickers. And I used these tracking labels that Scribble Prints Co had. And I just cut off the ends of about where the books ended. Now, I have a few at the top here. The Winnowing Flame, The Fall of Illyrian, which is 3 books, but it has 2 prequel books. So I added them in to make it 5 because I think they count. The Dune books, which I only count Frank Herbert's ones, and The Expanse. They're all finished but I included them in this tracker because I either started them or I finished them both this year. So I'm counting them in my series tracker. But I do have a bunch of other ones here. I started the Murderbot Diaries. We have Midsolar Murders, Talon Duology, the Library Trilogy, the Lycanus Trilogy, and the Bloodsworn Saga, and then also Great Cities, which is a duology by N.K. Jemisin. There's a bunch of series there that I'm hoping to pick up in the latter half of the year, or at least into next year too, because I think my series tracker I'm going to keep updated through 2025, but I might have a second one just for after I finish those, and if I have more series to do. So yeah, some of these pages can also, at least that one can work for 2025, you know. So here in this spread, we're getting to the end now. We've only got a few left. We've still got plenty of time to go. Anyway, this spread is my favorite books of the year. So I'm just doing the picking the best book from each month. And I'm using, for the first time, the book stickers from Scribble Prints Co. I think this is version 1. Yes, because I thought it'd be fun to actually use some of her book stickers. I've picked up all of her sizes, but I haven't used them yet. I will say, and this is no shade on Andrea because I love you, my boo-boo, you know that I do. But I will say I find that the ratio of the book is kind of odd. You have to kind of squish the book covers to fit into these. Like they're too wide and not long enough for the actual what book cover ratios are. So I actually went into Photoshop and I manually made all the book covers the right size, and that meant that I didn't have to super squish them super wide. So some of them are, but some of them I've just cut off the tops and bottoms of the books if I could, to make them fit in this ratio. But yeah, overall Overall, that's my only gripe with these book stickers, is that they're not quite the right ratio for a book cover. They're a bit too short. But I do love the way they look, and they're still really cute. So you'll see when I stick my book covers on there, because I have gone through and selected my favorite books. But the cool thing about having these book stickers is you can do this kind of layered thing that I'm doing here. So I have a different lot of sheets of Marigona Suli stickers here, because I thought it'd be fun to just bring in her different collections for different spreads, because they kind of do the color, I can choose my colors based off those. And I had these people sheets, and I thought maybe I could, because the books take up the whole pages, maybe I could layer them underneath the books. And I actually really love the way that came out. I think it looks super cute. And they kind of shade through the sticker paper, but once you stick a book cover on top, it completely covers it. So yeah, I was just having a bit of fun with layering here. And I thought they looked, it had a cool look to it, just something different in the planner again. So yeah, we're putting all of these fun little pieces, and I love the cat holding the book. It is so cute. You know that I'm a cat person. I mean, my name is kittenishgirljess. Which, if you want to know where kittenishgirljess comes from, since I'm talking about my whole life story here, I once applied for this jewelry shop for a job. It was called Diva, I think, in Australia. I don't think it exists anymore. But it had a thing where you had to describe yourself in 10 words. And I was like, what the heck? Anyway, so I was looking at different words, going through the thesaurus, and then I saw kittenish, which is another word for playful. And I was like, yeah, I love that word. I love cats. So I put that in, and then it kind of stuck. But anyway, before that, on the internet, I was known as Tabby, as in a tabby cat. And it was funny because people thought my name was my real name was Tabitha because of that, but no, I was just Tabby Cat because I had a tabby cat growing up. And in the 90s, you didn't share your real name on the internet, so I was Tabby or Tabarilla for a long time. Anyway, ancient history. I think I've mentioned that previously in a video, and someone was like, oh my god, I remember you. Because I was also really into the game by PF Magic called Pets with a Z, and I was also into Pixel Dolls with a Z too. So, I don't know. If you're around then and you remember Tabarilla, there you go. That was me. But yeah, this one I thought, okay, let's try out a different look. And I used my saddle brown Tombow and made like the squiggly line with the cute little twirls on the corners. And I thought I could turn this into like a vine, because I felt like that went with these stickers. So I did these little leaves. I think it came out super cute and whimsical. But here you can see me putting the book covers and how they're a little bit squished. I also seemingly couldn't get them the right size or cut them properly, but whatever. They mostly fit. And you're going to see the start of the year here was all... My favorite books of every month were the Expanse books, because I wasn't reading much else at the time. I think February, my only other books were One Piece. But I will say The Expanse, every single read was a 5-star read for me. I adore that series, so of course. And then May and June is June books, Messiah and Children, even though neither of those are 5-star books, but they were my best books in those months because I still wasn't reading very much. So the first half of the year is all sci-fi, and then we have 2 Illyrian books by Martha Wells, The Element of Fire, which is a prequel book, and then the actual full of Illyrian trilogy book, The Wizard Hunters, that's the first book of the trilogy, were my best in those months, and I really, really enjoyed those. So the first half of the year is kind of sci-fi, and the second half of the year is turning out to be fantasy. September, as of the 26th of September, is probably going to be The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams, which I feel like is it's a majority fantasy, but it has sci-fi elements to it, I will say. But yeah, the start of the year, I just wasn't reading as much, and I was finishing The Expanse, and, well, Leviathan Falls had to be on there, because I was crying the whole ending. And I still, like, even now, if I think about the ending of The Expanse, I cry a little bit, just thinking about one of the characters. Just one of the characters makes me so sad. But anyway, we won't get into spoilers here. So now I've flipped through a bit of the book, and we're kind of like midway. So I've got a whole bunch of full page things that I need to do. And then I also have a bunch of like stuff for the Fields of Mystery game, like gift guides in here. So this is the pages right before my September setup is. And I wanted to do a fall TBR, like an autumn TBR. So some books I might focus on reading this autumn, and then next to it I decided I would do a little spread for my art, because if you don't know, if you're new here, or I professionally draw clip art for stickers, and I decided to pick 6 of my favorite art sets from the first half of the year, so from January through June, and I kind of just picked one per month. So so I just printed off some cute like pictures of it, mostly stuff from my Instagram that I have of the art, to put there a 6-month favorite art spread. And then I thought I'd do another one at the end of the year, just because it felt nice to be able to like highlight my art a little bit in the journal. So those are some of the more personal stuff I'm putting into this journal. But for the fall TBR, I was like, okay, I'm going to continue using this saddle brown because it's really pretty, and it goes perfectly with this set of cottage stickers from Scribble Prints Co. And I decided in the end to do a big gingham border, and I love it so much. Except I printed off my book covers really big. I hadn't thought about fitting them all on this page with a border, and also the title, which I just used a fall and a TBR scripts from Scribble Prints Co. as well. So we're not going to end up putting all of the books in here. So the first one's here, The Day in the Fallen Night, and also Garth Marenghi's Incarcerate. I'm going to take out because those are specifically in my October lineup because I'm using them for a Halloween challenge. Again, from Scribble Prints Co. So I decided to take those out and put some different books in there. So yeah, these are just some books I want to read this autumn, and I have actually started reading The Glass Hotel last night by Emily St. John Mandel. I think that's the name. I can't remember. I can't read it properly from here, but yeah, this is the first book I read of hers. I did watch the TV show version of Station 11, which is based on her book, and I love that TV show. If you haven't watched Station 11, it is so good. It's probably because it came out in 2020 and it is about a world destroyed by a pandemic. But honestly, it was so therapeutic, especially watching it in 2020 because, I don't know, like it's sad but also so hopeful and so beautiful in its meaning. And it's really about the endurance of humanity in a positive way that I think Station 11 is just, you gotta watch it. I have actually read the synopsis of the book to see what was different, and my partner has read the book as well, and they agree with me that it doesn't sound as good as the TV show. I'm just gonna be honest there. I thought the TV show was so good. So yeah, definitely recommend watching Station 11. You can read it too. But I think the changes that they made to the story and the character relationships in the show was perfect. But anyway, I want to read her other books, which are kind of related. I think The Glass Hotel, my partner has read them, and they read it as Sea of Tranquility and then The Glass Hotel. But there's references to Glass Hotel in Sea of Tranquility, so they told me to read Glass Hotel first. So that's what I'm reading right now, because it's on our Kindle, so yeah. But I definitely want to get to some of these other books, especially the adventures of Amina. I can't read the last name, but that one sounds really good, and a lot of people are super into that, like pirate fantasy. And then Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie is actually my partner's all-time favorite book, so I definitely want to read that when I can. And then I need to read Warbreaker from Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, one of my last books I need to read on the series tracker. And I was also considering Paladin's Grace as sort of like, I've heard that it is kind of a romance fantasy, but it's a romance between middle-aged people, which interests me a bit more because I'm close to middle age. So, yeah, so that sounds really good. And I haven't read any T. Kingfisher, and I know she's very popular, or they're very popular. I don't want to make assumptions. Apologies. And then on my Kindle, I have The Spear Cuts Through Water, which I believe is pretty popular too. So put that on my TBR. I actually just went through our Kindle and our Audible accounts and saw what we already owned. Because Impulse buys a lot of books, my partner. So yeah. So yeah, we're coming up to the end of all of this now. I'm just going to do my little spread here for my 6 months of art. And I didn't have any numbers or anything, so I thought I would just do art in these alphabet stickers that Scribble Prints Co has, and then I was like very brave and used the Tombow to write 6 months of. I kind of penciled it out a little bit more, but yeah, I haven't really done any lettering with the Tombow, so apologies. But this is sort of, we're having fun and attempting to try things. But I definitely want to like practice doing the Tombow lettering eventually. I tried some a bit at a planner convention, but that was a long time ago and I've forgotten. So I need to print off some sheets of practicing lettering with it, but I think it still looks cute. I wrote it down in the pink and I'm just going to outline it with my fine liner, and the pen I've been using the whole time is a Copic fine liner and it is 0.3. I'm using this because my partner Log bought it for me for a birthday, so I've got these Copic ones. I used to have Copic markers, but I only ever had like maybe 6 of them, and it's hard to color like full art with not very many markers. You kind of do need a few colors, but that is okay. So now we're just going to put straight in, and I'm about to erase all of these pencil lines because I didn't really need them. So I'm just putting in these little snapshots of the art that I drew in the last 6 months, or released in the last 6 months, because I was really happy with them and thought they were pretty. But I know, it's just a fun little spread for me and not really about reading at all. But I thought I would include it here. We're about to do a flip through so you can see what I've got done so far with my reading goals. I should say I have 3 goals, and I didn't write in the third one yet on this flip through, but I have now. But my goals are for this year was to read 40 books, and I've got 33 so far. To reread the Stormlight Archive, which I did finish just recently, and I decided not to include them like in my favorites of the month because they are a reread. And my third goal, which I've put in now, is to read more women authors, and I think I have done that a bit more. You know, I've got Emily, I've got Jen Williams, I've got Martha Wells, I've got a few others in there. I can't remember, but anyway, I'm trying to read more women authors overall. But here you can see I filled in some of the pieces. But yeah, if you enjoyed this long journaling setup, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. Comment down below. Comment a heart, a pink sparkly heart for me. Pink hearts and sparkles to say that you've watched this whole hour-long video. Let me know what you've been doing while watching this, or if you just enjoyed watching this, or if you actually did some stuff while doing so. Let me know. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully I can have some more journaling stuff for you in the future. But yeah, thank you for joining on this journey with me. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I love you. Bye-bye.